Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Welcome, survivors. This is the Area Knight of the Pseudo Posse, and I have heard from several of you in recent videos that you've wanted to see me build a pit horde base using some of the new blocks I've tested in the 1.0 update. Heard you all loud and clear. We could go in a variety of directions for this design, but seeing as I've recently done a melee base and an AFK horde base, I thought it would cater to a different playstyle for this build. How about perception? Sniping, headshots, explosions, flying limbs. Yeah, let's do that. And I think I have the perfect design concept in mind. One I haven't done in a long time and one I never really made a dedicated video on. Rather a footnote in some other videos we've done. And that, of course, is what I would call, I guess I never really named it. That is what I will call the deer in headlights design. Here's how that worked in the Alpha 21 example. Basically, we shall utterly exploit the zombies' desire to follow the shortest path of least resistance, and we will give them an irresistible decision to make, one that shall paralyze them. Here it is in action. Notice the zombies don't really have a clue of what to do. Their indecision will make them excellent fodder for headshots or grenades. So how does it work? It's actually rather simple. First, give them a path leading to your position. Can be anything really. In this example, they need to run around, up a ladder, and across some plate quarter shapes over some bars. That isn't the important part. The key features are actually the trigger, here, pressure plates, and the second key, the powered hatches. As zombies run along this path, the hatches pop down, creating a second path that is actually shorter than the first path. As Taco will helpfully illustrate here, this path on the right, colored in, let's say, blue, you're gonna listen to me, right, Taco? Is the first longer path. The hatch path on the left in the red is the second shorter path. During the time the hatches are down, zombies will rush toward the shorter path as it is shorter and irresistible. But we are huge pricks, and thus the hatches will pop back up quickly, thus cutting off the second path, and will set the power duration of the hatches to such a short time they'll never be able to actually cross it. Since the path is cut off, they have no choice but to go back toward the first path. But then wait, glimmer of hope. The second path opens right back up. Zombies can't resist the allure. And just like a hot girl leading on some poor schlubs, will quickly toy with them before summarily crushing all their dreams. Really, the key feature of this design is false hope. Zombies will always try to reach what they cannot grasp, fail, and when presented with the same exact choice again, make the same exact choice again. Do this long enough, and you'll get these poor losers, frozen in existential dread, having lost the will to make a decision. Hence the name of the design concept. Okay, this all sounds terribly depressing for them. Remember that. For the rest of us, it's good fun, as we can take advantage of their frozen state and blast them. Now, reason I went on this side rant is because we are going to incorporate this design into our pit design. Instead of dropping them onto a platform and playing our little game, we will drop them into a pit of self-loathing and despair. Same idea, different scenery. We're going to start a bit by cheating using our handy wrench. Now, if you're going to legitly build this in-game, I'd recommend making a small pit at the game start and expanding the size as you progress. You certainly don't need to make it this size, which is something like 17 by 17, even for the late game. You can make it smaller and less deep, and you'll be totally fine for a high game stage horde with all the nasty zombies. I'm just making it this big for visual purposes, but definitely go smaller. You'll cry digging a hole this massive without an auger. Around the perimeter, I'm going to place the wedge 60 tips. Followed by the wedge 60 inside corners. and a layer of wedge 60s on the outer perimeter. The only reason I am doing this is to make a gentler transition from ground to pit all the way around. My aesthetic OCDs will not tolerate it. Next, I'm going to construct the stairs which will lead to the path we'll run over the pit. This path will ultimately drop zombies into the pit, so we need to give them a way to said path. Nothing particularly fancy, some stairs-filled shapes and full cubes. At the top, we're going to wrap the stairs around toward the pit using this ramp filler. And stairs hollow. We'll add some extra support for our slide right around here and run some pillars up to the top where we'll top it off with a cube. The path itself will be constructed from cube halves, which match the thickness of the stairs hollow. We're going to extend these out toward the pit and then over it. The downside of making the pit this large is we don't have enough stability to make it all the way across. So we need to construct some supports on the sides. We are making these from the sides, as though more stability would be provided from building directly underneath the cube half path. That support column would end up at the bottom of the pit, where it could be easily destroyed. So we'll need to suffer with some less stability. The horizontal support will be constructed using the pillar 0.05 meter shape, as zombies don't see it as a path unless we'll completely ignore it. One of these supports is not enough, so I'll need to make a couple more. Cubes are boring, so if you are looking for a substitute for base foundation, give the gable inverted 1/4 a try. It adds a nice aesthetic, and I occasionally like to use it in my builds, but too much of a good thing is crap, so we'll alternate some cube 3/4 in there to create some nice contrasting contours. Reason why I am building this now is we'll still require extra support for our path, and the most weight intensive part of the build will be the slide that will drop zombies into the pit of despair. Excuse me. The pit of self-loathing and despair. Okay, slide time. Search for the ramp 6 meter 03, and for those that have seen our OP45 block AFK base video, we used those there to great effect. And we'll do the same exact strategy here, minus the AFK part. Place a row of the 03 shapes right across. In my previous testing, you'll only need a 2-block length to drop zombies, which is amazing. So with 4 of these bad boys, no one will ever get across. On the top, we'll invert the same exact shape and plop down another row. And so our sneaky zombies cannot simply jump on top, we'll block their access with some cube halves to force them onto the slide. And we'll do that on our second path too. Got to have that symmetry. That concludes the zombie dropper part of the design. Now for the base itself. I don't know exactly how I want to build it. All I know for sure is I don't want it to be rectangular. So for no particular reason, I'm going to add some angles using ramps. Lots of angles. And for those that have seen our cop spit video, you'll know ramp blocks are cop spit safe. So there's always a reason for something I do. And perhaps taper it back out a bit with more ramps. Seems like I'm making an hourglass-shaped base.
I've been hanging on, counting days, thinking it was me all along.
Sure, why the hell not? We're gonna go ahead and fill in everything. And because I've been running with the black and white pattern thus far, let's continue that by adding some simple geometric shapes. And in the back, a smiley face for no other reason than we're just gonna have so much fun. Look how happy it is. On the top, let's fill in the floor with random pattern with not much thought. Now, I originally tinkered around a bit and chose to make a tunnel in the middle of our hourglass using 3-meter tunnel pieces, as they are cop spit safe. But it is a bit too low. So we're going to raise it up using the tube 3-meter center straight 01 shape. We'll put those down at the bottom and then our 3-meter tunnel shapes above so it isn't so claustrophobic.
But nobody said it was easy. Maybe I should have known. I've been out till late, shifting beds, trying to kill the image of you. Got a million stupid reasons not to call. It's just that I want to. Do you remember how we pulled the drapes in the basement to get away from the world that we couldn't fit in? And how we used to walk those empty streets at night in the city lights is where I saw you for the last time. Said our goodbye.
The rest of the walls will use the same cube and ramp shapes we used for the foundation. Same thing for the roof. I want the roof to be flat, as I plan to put some iron spikes on top to deal with the vulture threat. If you recall from the beginning when I said I want to make a perception-based build where I use sniper rifles and grenades, I need a place to shoot from. So we're going to make some room for the pull 4-way shapes, which are a great block to shoot and throw grenades and molotovs through. The angle from there isn't exactly great. I'm going to lower the floor a bit and put in some ramps so I can change my elevation depending on what I am aiming at. This was a suggested modification to a pull 4-way design I came up with from a recent video. Thanks again, buddy. Technically, he suggested a V-shaped design using 2 rows of ramps, but since we are always going to be aiming downward, I think we'll modify that design. But yes, I think this reworked shooting perch will do quite nicely. Time for the pit pathways. First, let's construct the long path. This is the path that will always be available and will trigger the second hatch path to temporarily open it. Nothing particularly revolutionary about this path. We are going to use the pillar 0.05 meter shapes again to support the path from the pit wall. We don't want zombies to try exiting the pit before they are forced to drop back down. So using non-pathable shapes as supports is extremely important. For the actual zombie dropper, we will use the same thing as our pit zombie dropper, the same ramp 6-meter 03 slide. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our second pathway will be placed on the opposite wall, and we'll make that path red to differentiate it from the first path. And of course, we need to add the powered hatches that will lead up to the top toward freedom, except it will be unreachable because the power duration will be too short. Pressure plates are too vulnerable, so let's go with tripwire to trigger our hatches. So we'll need to run that across the slide. One on the backside and the other on the opposite side of the slide. I'll tuck it inside so zombies can't destroy it. And I'll block it off with railings, as this shape will allow me to wire through it. So let's go ahead and do that, and connect to our other tripwire. And from there to the hatches. From inside our base, I'll put a generator where it is nice and safe. Since the distance is too long for a direct connection, I'll set up some relays to connect from the generator to the relays to the tripwire. I'm going to make sure everything is connected properly and self-test the connections by running down the slide. Seems to work exactly as intended. For our next test, I'm going to spawn a bunch of zombies and have them try out the loop. seems to work quite well, except they are getting stuck at the bottom staircase, which was something I thought might happen. A quick Horde test confirms the issue as they consistently get stuck in that region. Which doesn't bode well for the longevity of my stairs, as zombies will stop to beat on it. Zombies suck at running around edges, so a quick staircase modification will help that. Normally, I'd use corner stair pieces, but this particular stair shape doesn't have a corner variant, which is criminal. So, next best thing is to reconstruct it such that there are multiple stairs to accommodate zombies coming from different directions. And with that tweak, let's do the Horde. Operation Pit of Self-Loathing and Despair is a go. Depressing the zombies in 3, 2, 1. Hit it, Taco. Was extremely fun for me. Again, not so much for them. One thing to note, being completely reckless with grenades and Molotovs is dangerous, as triggering demos wiped out some of my stairs. If you are much more careful here, where I did a ton of headshots and some more strategic grenades, I lost no stairs, so take that as you will. Anyways, feel free to take the design and tweak it to your heart's content. You don't need to make the pit so big, and you can use any type of zombie dropping mechanism you like. And of course you could make it a melee base as well and have zombies drop as you melee them into the pit. Really, sky's the limit for what you can possibly do. If you have any design ideas you'd like me to try out next, share in the comments section. And if you aren't feeling too depressed for the zombies, consider liking the video as the YouTube algorithm likes them likes. And if you aren't currently a part of the posse, sign up and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications so you won't miss the next zombie therapy session. Oh, and shout out to our amazing Patreon community, whose generosity has helped out our channel tremendously. Thank you all so much. On that note, this is Eerie Knight signing off. Oh, and Taco also says hi and bye. She's a bit busy editing all of this, so I'm her surrogate. So, adios everyone. See you all in the next one.